Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today I just wanted to do a quick garden tour and show you what is growing. Now it's mid-April. It's been a very dry, cool spring. I've had to do a little bit of hand watering on some of my plants, but we've got a lot of projects going on, and I just wanted to show you what's happening. Now behind me, we do have some of the plants that I'm growing for my spring garden, so we'll start in my plant room first. So here we are in my plant room. Let me turn off my fan so that we don't get too much noise. And we have several things going. First, we have my grocery store basil that is still going. We have a little fig cutting that I've started. I tried to start 4 of them and inadvertently took the plastic off. You know, this is my first time growing cuttings for figs. I took the plastic off of them too early, and most of the green died out. But there is still green, they're still alive. They are tight in the soil, so I think they've rooted. So I'm gonna let them go a little bit longer and see what happens. So I have one for sure that made it, and this is a Desert King. We also have my kale that I started growing over the winter to see if I could grow kale inside and utilize it to eat. And it worked beautifully. I've had several harvests off it. It's been really good, and I think I'll do that next winter too. Now here's my I have no patience, I jumped the gun artichokes that I purchased. I could put them out right now if I had a place to plant them, but I will show you outside that I have not progressed as far as I'd hoped on my food forest, and there is no place to plant them yet, but it is coming shortly. We have all my tomatoes and peppers. Maybe I'll go over varieties at another time. The peppers are looking really good. We have several different varieties this year. Here is something I'm very excited about. I had a friend give me some maypops. He grows maypops here in Pleasant Grove, Utah, that do really well. So he gave me some of his maypops. I harvested the seeds, put them in the refrigerator. I had hundreds of them, and I got 3 starts out of it. But at least I have 3 starts. We have some more peppers. And in the back, we have my physalis, or ground cherry. I also had another friend give me some cuttings from their sea kale. These are root cuttings, and hopefully I'm doing it right. We're going to see if we can get some sea kale to put out. Here is my ginger. It's been several weeks. You can definitely see that nothing has happened. But when you pull up the ginger, you know, there's still green to it. It's not rotted. There's nice starts. So I think it's just taking its own sweet time. All of them look like that, except for the stuff I bought online. The ones that I bought online were rooted or rotted, and you know, you can't even find them anymore. Actually, I think this is one of them right here. So yeah, the ones I bought online didn't work. The grocery store ones seem to still be hanging in there. Over here, I have more basil, ready to plant out with no place to go. We have some more tomatoes and peppers. So I'm really excited about my seedlings. They've done really well. Now over here are going to be products of another video someday. These are all my other plants that I jumped the gun and bought with no place to plant them. And I'm really excited about them. We've got an avocado. No, we cannot grow avocados in Pleasant Grove, Utah. But I'm going to try this Mexicola avocado indoors. And we'll go over what we've done to plant them. We have a Owari mandarin that I'm really excited about. And if we look very carefully, look at that. It's flowering. Lots of new growth. It lost most of its leaves when it got here. But all of this on top is new growth. This is a Meyer lemon, improved Meyer lemon, and it's got a ton of new growth, but no flowers on it. I didn't expect flowers anyway. So we'll show you what we're doing with that. They'll go outside as soon as it's warm enough. We've also got an improved Celeste Fig. We've got two new pawpaws. We'll go over varieties in another video. We've got some service berries and some bush cherries. And another fig that a friend gave me, and this is another Chicago Hardy. So there's a lot of fun stuff going on. And then this little guy right here that's a stick that hasn't broken dormancy yet. Don't know if it's alive. This is a persimmon. It's an Akita's gift. So we'll see how that goes. So now we're outside, and if you've watched my videos with any, over any amount of time at all, you would notice that behind me looks a little bit different. And I did create a video. It was the last video that I posted, and that is the video of Dan Owen taking out my aspen trees. Now, aspens, I explained why they went out in that video, but long story short, they shouldn't be on the valley floors in Utah, even though they're gorgeous. And I should have taken them out years ago, but I didn't. So I'll post a before and after picture so you can kind of see what it looked like. So those are gone. That was another step that needed to happen before I bring in the topsoil for my food forest. And let's show you everything else that we've done. So from up here, you can see my service berries just getting ready to bloom. And there is something blooming, and I'm not sure what it is, that absolutely smells glorious. Maybe it's just that it's spring and it smells good. But anyway, it smells like a flower somewhere out here. We've got my Jujube tree that was pruned, and it does not start leafing out until about June, which is a really good thing because it doesn't get hit by the late frosts that we have. But you can see the swollen buds on it. Those little swollen nodules are where all the branches come out. So it's getting ready. This is my poor sad forest pansy. It had 2 branches coming from the base. It was twice as big as this, but it's been a very, very dry winter, and I completely forgot to water it. And one thing that I didn't do is I didn't clear out the junipers from around it. So one of those 2 things, or maybe both, caused one half of it to completely die off. But this half is starting to leaf out, so I'll be more diligent about it this year. We've got lilacs just about ready to bloom. My choke cherry buds are coming on. They smell absolutely fantastic once they start blooming, but they're not quite ready yet. We've got my little lone pluot here, and he's going to get some friends because shortly this area is going to have a large load of topsoil brought in, and I'll explain in that video why I'm bringing topsoil in, and then we're bringing in mulch, and we'll finish the irrigation that we've already started. The apples and pears have been pruned in a different video with another lilac over the top of them. So it's a really exciting time of year. I've got my white lilac just about ready to burst into bloom. You can see all the buds on it. Spring is definitely my favorite time. Another area over here, all these will be repurposed. All these bricks are going to be taken out and repurposed, put into another garden bed down on this lower level. I'm going to have 2 more garden beds over near the end over there. This is a golden currant, and look at the blooms on it. Aren't they gorgeous? And I think this is what I was smelling. It smells fantastic. I can smell them all the way up on my deck. So I'm really excited about this bush, and we'll see if we like the fruit or not. I don't think my hydrangeas survived. These are 10 years old. They're Hydrangea Macrophylla, and you don't often see these survive in Utah, and they've survived for 10 years. But we had an extremely early freeze, we had a very dry winter, and I'm not seeing any new growth when I probably should see it by now. But I'm going to look at this as a positive because the same thing has happened over there. This whole back area is changing. We're going to have a path come through here and wrap around. We're going to put other plants in here. So I think I will have to rip these out anyway, but I wasn't going to because I love them so much. So I was trying to figure out a way to make my design around these plants. But if they're not coming back, then here's an opportunity to move them someplace else, put new ones in someplace else, and then actually do the design the way it works best. So sometimes with a little bit of pain, there comes benefits. We've pruned the grapevines. We've got strawberries coming up. Only about half survived. I need to plant the other half of my bed. I'm just going to give it a little while longer and see, you know, what survived and what didn't. These are Fort Laramie strawberries, and they're ever-bearing. Pruned back my raspberries that have struggled over the years. We'll see if by next year I still want to keep them. This is a bed, and I just don't know what's happening. I don't know if things are coming in and eating them. I planted carrots in here. I can still see them, but they're just not. I don't know if you can see those little guys in there, but they seem to be dying back. We have little radishes in here, and maybe something's eating them already, but they're just not as many as what I saw earlier. And then we've got spinach also. We've got the red Russian kale, curly kale, some garlic from ones that I missed picking last year. So, and then we've got some broccoli also. We also have, supposedly, and I could still see little tiny ones. I don't know if you could see any of them down in here. But like right there, there's a few little tiny beets that are trying to poke through. I may come through and re-sow the beets and the carrots because it's been well over 3 weeks. You know, there's a few more there. Well over 3 weeks since I planted them. They're not doing much. Maybe it's still too cold. We've got the cabbage. We've got a kale that's ready to start flowering. My lettuce that I planted last fall finally came up, and we've been harvesting off it, and we've got kohlrabi. So this bed's doing really well, and I haven't had to close the tarp for a long time. Now, I did try to water my rosemary every so often during the winter, but I didn't water down here, and you can see what happened to that portion of it. It was such a dry winter, and it's the dry, cold winters that just wreak havoc on the rosemaries. They can get down to really cold temperatures and still be okay, but if they're dry, they won't survive. See, there's some more that died back inside. So we're gonna cut back the dead parts. But I've got a good chunk of it that's really healthy, so we're still good to go. The onions that I planted, I still haven't taken off, but they're not dead. We've got a ton of cilantro that's reseeding. Some of the herb that I love to hate, my salad burnet. Some more over here, just in case I want to transplant it somewhere else, but we've got a lot of cilantro coming up. The garlic is looking fantastic. Nothing in this bed yet. We may use it to plant some of the tomatoes or peppers and put plastic over them. We'll see what happens. And then we've got peas coming up in this one. They're finally starting to look good. I'm excited about that. We don't have anything in the other half, but we do have little quail that come and dig. So the quail came and dug that hole. They've been very active back here. And then look at the peach trees. Aren't they glorious? We're gonna have a ton of peaches this year. I think we're beyond the point, hopefully, we won't have a freeze that takes out the blossoms. We've got the plum tree that was in full bloom. It's now coming to the end of its bloom cycle. Got the cherry trees. And all the herbs under my peach trees are doing well. Okay, I'm having a hard time getting it to focus, but this is my little pistachio, and you can see the new growth on it. There's new growth everywhere. So this came through the winter. You can see down here at the base, it's really leafing out down at the base. So it's done really well. I'm excited about this. So this pistachio's alive. And then over on the other side, I have my tree peony, and it's going to have flowers. Now I'm going to see what happened because we have really taken out all the shade that it's had. When we took out the aspens over there, and then last year we took out the choke cherry over here. So really there's a lot more sun in this area. Now I definitely need to find some sort of tree to plant through here. Probably. We'll see. I'm just going to give it some time to see, because now all you notice is the wild, out of control privet that I use as a barrier. And you can see the flowers. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit. You can see the yellow flowers of the forsythia back there. So all of this is just now looking just wild and not great. I loved the way it looked with the aspen trees there, but we can't have aspen trees here. They were getting into my neighbor's yard and up under my deck and everything. So right here you can see the irrigation that's gone in. It's ready to be tied in where it needs to be tied in. These two right here are going to be for garden beds. So the garden beds now have their own zone. This one is going to be for the two garden beds that I'm going to put back in the back. Down here, we've got irrigation for both sides of the path in the food forest area. So we're going to put in some drip lines all the way through here, all the way to the end. So these have their own zone. Now, another project that was done this week is, if you look really closely, we've got irrigation line that I still need to bury. But this irrigation line is for the new valve box that we put out front. And we actually had to have an electrician come and drill through the wall of my house so that we could tie that into the new clock that we're going to do. And I'll do another video on the irrigation and exactly what we've done with this. Here's the valve box. We're waiting till next Saturday when the water is on so that we can actually finish hooking this all up. Let me see if I can get this open. I can't get it open, so maybe I'll just lift it up. So as you can see, the electrical is not hooked up yet to the new valves. So we'll get that hooked up next Saturday once the water is on, and then we'll be ready to go. So my front yard is going to change quite a bit. Now, I'm not going to go over how it's going to change. I will do a video on design and how I came up with the design here in a little bit. But definitely the lavender is going to come out. It'll be replaced, but it's got to come out. They're old, they're big, and I can't get the irrigation restrung until those are taken out. So we'll get those taken out. And then all the grass is going to be gone. This grass no longer has access to water. So it's green because of the rain. We're going to give it a good short mow, probably hit it with some Roundup, and then it might be next year before I finish this. I'll get the irrigation going and up and going, but the paths and everything else that I'm going to do with it, money, it's going to be expensive. I've got to do paths and, a pad and all sorts of different things up front. And that's got to be done before I do massive planting. So anyway, until that point, we're just going to enjoy it the way it is. The grass is going to be dead. I'll try and keep it nice and clean and tidy looking so that the neighbors don't get upset while they wait. I've got my spring flowers. Everything is growing in here. This poor tree will not be surrounded by grass anymore. It'll be surrounded by mulch. Trying to get my shadow out of here. But then we have the first project that I did, in the renovations. We've got all the plants growing well, and I think just about everything is coming back. I was a little worried about it before, but we've got all the spring flowers that are coming in. The irises are going to be next. We've got some pansies just for fun. We've got some sedum that I transplanted from another area. And then everything, the butterfly bushes, everything is coming back. The only thing I haven't seen come back is the grass. But the grass was the one I was the least worried about. So we'll see what happens with that. I wasn't as happy with the color of it before anyway, so I may replace it. We'll see what happens. We've got some lilies coming up that I planted. The one that I worried about, the Hypericum, this is St. John's wort that's got beautiful different colors of the flowers and the fruit. This is coming back. We've got more lilies right here. As you can see, I did another video on planting peonies, bare root peonies, and they are coming up. I'm really excited about these. They're coming up in all 3 spots that I planted them, and I'll link that video up above. So this is my chaste tree, and the chaste trees sometimes they take a long time to come out of dormancy. There is still green bark under there, and it looks like there's a few buds. So I'm still going to hold out hope, because this is still just mid-April. A lot of times I don't see these bud out until May, maybe even June sometimes. So we're just going to patiently wait and see what happens. I thought for sure that I had lost my Hydrangea paniculata, but as you can see, there's a ton of new growth, so I'm really excited about that. There's a lot of new growth on this pistachio. So I'm excited about this one. It didn't die back. And my little lemony lace elderberry is looking gorgeous. I love the bronze foliage. I didn't realize you would get bronze foliage, when it started to come out. We've got one little flower bud. Let me see if I can get where the sun is not. So we've got one little flower bud on it. I'm really excited about that. Now it's sibling over here, the black tower. It's got new growth on it, but it's a little bit further behind than the lemony lace, but it's still coming on. This is my chokeberry. It's looking great. And then I finally took the protection off of my fig. This is a Chicago Hearty Fig. And I'm not quite sure what to think. I thought it was alive. When I took it off, there was a ton of live growth. And maybe, is this a new bud? No, that's dead. Yeah, it all looked alive when I pulled the covering off, and so I pruned it up really good, like I saw online, and now it's not looking live anymore. But I went over to my friend Neil Hinckley's place, and he has some Chicago Hearty Figs that he grows in ground and does not protect them, and they all look like this. And he says they look like this every year, and then once it warms up enough, they all grow from the base. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if I took the covering off too soon or what, but we'll just have to keep experimenting and see what happens. And then finally, we will be moving this either this year or next year. This is my honeyberry. You can see it's got buds on it, but it does need a pollinator, and the pollinators are inside. So it's not quite. So we're not going to get fruit this year, but we are getting new growth from the base and everything, so it's looking really good. But we're going to move it back to an area where it's going to do a little bit better. There's too much sun here for it, and we're going to put another Chicago Hearty Fig here so we can protect both of them together. So the last thing I wanted to show you was it's been a year, but I finally got this most of the way done. All that needs to happen is I need to get either bags of rock, or maybe when I have the front yard done, have the company bring in, some pea gravel or something to put through here. I had to take the irrigation out because it was tied to the irrigation in the front. And the grass here just never did well. It was too high a traffic for when I had my dogs and everything. And I didn't need all this grass anyway. So this is where, against this fence, I'm going to cut out the weed mat, and this is where I'm going to plant my little maypops. So yeah, I'll just open this area up, and you can see where the irrigation is coming from here. So I'll just tie into this irrigation line and run irrigation this way. I'll add some compost and some mulch over the top of it and see if we can get the maypops to climb along this fence. It's good south-facing area. We'll have an automatic drip, and it should do well, I'm hoping. We'll see. So thanks for coming along on this quick tour. I think one of the next videos that I'll make is going to be one of how I came up with the design for the food forest, and talk to you a little bit more about design. That's kind of actually why I have not done videos as often as I should lately. I own a landscape design company, and this has been a really busy time of year, of course. That, along with all the other things that are going on in life. Trying to to work on balance, but sometimes balance doesn't happen like you want it to, and you have to pick and choose the things that you do. So unfortunately, YouTube dropped to the bottom of the list for a couple of weeks. But anyway, I have enough videos for the rest of this week, and I'm hoping to be able to create more next Saturday. As we go ahead with this food forest installation, there should be a lot of good stuff coming up. So I hope if you've enjoyed my videos that you come join me along this next adventure that I do. And like and subscribe, share these with your friends, and I hope you have a wonderful garden adventure.